We're building the ultimate 1440 gaming PC capable of running any game on ultra settings for only $1,000 US. The build will be centered around AMD's 6800 GPU and their 7600 processor, and we're going to use the MSI B650. Let's start by installing the CPU. We unlock the CPU socket latch on the motherboard, and we align the golden triangle on the Ryzen 7600 CPU with the triangle marker on the socket. We gently place the CPU into the socket without forcing it. We give it a little wobble, and then we lower the latch to secure the CPU, and we remove the protective cover from the socket. And we insert the 1TB SanDisk Extreme PCIe 4 NVMe SSD into the M2 slot at a 30-degree angle, and then press it down flat, and we can secure it by using the adjacent standoff screw. When installing the CPU cooler, we remove the pre-installed brackets around the CPU socket. We attach the included mounting hardware for the Deepcool AK400 cooler. We don't need to apply any thermal paste because it's pre-applied, and then we can just secure the cooler base onto the mounting bracket. We attach the fan, ensuring airflow direction pulls cool air from the front and exhausts it towards the motherboard's rear I/O. And then we connect the fan cable to the CPU fan header on the motherboard. We then install the motherboard into the case. So we're using the Montech Air 1000 premium case. So we need to remove the front panel. We install the motherboard I/O shield in the case, ensuring it aligns properly. So we place it from the inside out, and we align the circle holes down the bottom, and then that's where we place the motherboard, and we align the screw holes with the case standoffs, starting with the center screw. So we secure the motherboard using the provided screws that came from the back of the case, and we can center the motherboard and tighten that. Next, we install the power supply. So we install the Deepcool PF750 80+ power supply at the bottom of the case, with its fan facing downwards for airflow. So we secure the power supply with the screws provided. So then we'll just need to feed the necessary cable. So the 24 pin, that's the big power supply connector. We'll also have the CPU, the 8-pin one, and the PCIe, which is the graphics card GPU power supply, which we'll tie that up later. And we've got to put those through the cable management slots. And one thing to note is that this is a non-modular power supply, so all of the cables become pre-attached. We plug the 24-pin connector into the ATX power header on the right side. We'll plug the one of the 8-pin cables in the top left in the CPU power header on the motherboard. We need to connect the case cables. We'll start with the HD audio. So this is the colorful cable. This connects to the HD audio slot, or the JAUD1 in the very bottom left corner of the motherboard. We also want to connect the USB 2.0, so that can go into either the JUSB 2 or JUSB 3 slot. This is a 9-pin one near the bottom of the motherboard. So the other case cables that we need to connect is the USB 3. Now this goes into the big 19-pin connector near the bottom right of the motherboard. And I believe it has the label USB 4. Try not to get confused with the numbering systems. Just look at the number of cables and see if the number of pins, and see if they match and fit them in. We'll also need to do the JFP1. This is for power and reset and the LED connections. So this is in the bottom right of the motherboard, and we're going to have to combine a few things together. So the top row, we can see that there's 4 pins, and the bottom row there's 5. Now in the top row, in the top position, we start by putting in the power LED, the positive one, followed by the negative one, then the power switch, which takes up 2 slots, so that's the whole top row. Then in the bottom row we have the HDD LED positive, then the HDD LED negative, and then followed by the reset switch, and then there's nothing in the 5th pin there. Finally, for the final case cable, we'll just need to plug in the system fans into the sys fan header, and then we secure the GPU with screws, and we connect the 2 8-pin PCIe power cables. So in this particular case, the clearance was quite tight, and it's very possible to remove one. So for our system, we've already got a custom CPU cooler, and this case came with multiple fans. So removing one of them is no big deal. So I removed the center fan from this case because the GPU is very, very tight, and I didn't want that blocking the fan from moving, and then that will impact the motherboard. So that's it for installing the GPU. We need to ensure that we close all the cases and all that. We need to make sure that we do not turn on the computer if there's any screws or metal shrapnel or anything like that laying around on the motherboard. We don't want to short it.